I paid $420 for a 1984 Toyota Corolla at an estate auction in October. Rust on the rocker panels, one mismatched hubcap, interior that smelled like old coffee, and something I chose not to investigate. Ran fine though. I've fixed worse. It wasn't until I was detailing the interior 3 days later that I found the button. It was behind the ashtray. Not hidden exactly, more like installed by someone who assumed you'd eventually find it. Small, dark, slightly recessed, with a texture that didn't match anything else in a 1984 Toyota. I pressed it because I press buttons. A panel folded out from the dash, smooth, no seams, a touchscreen that had no business being in a car from the year I was born. Client interface. One input field. One button below it that said, in plain English, confirm immediate departure. I stared at it for a while. Then I typed in my work address. Then I pressed confirm. The garage disappeared. I was in the parking lot of my office. Correct parking lot. Correct address. I had left my garage in Naperville and I was now in downtown Chicago, and there had been nothing in between. No motion, no sound, no light show. Just garage, then parking lot, like someone had cut 2 frames of film together. I sat in the car for about 4 minutes. Then I went inside and did my job, because what else do you do? On the drive home, I thought about the previous owner. Margaret Acaffer, age 81, deceased. Estate included 1 house, furniture, a 1984 Toyota Corolla with 1 extra button, and apparently a secret I was not prepared for. I tested it systematically. Short distances first, my driveway to the end of the block. Worked. Grocery store 2 miles away. Worked. My parents' house in Indiana, 200 miles. Worked. I tested whether it worked with passengers. My neighbor said it felt like the longest blink of his life. I tested whether it left any trace, checked news, checked traffic cameras, nothing. Then I typed in coordinates that resolved to empty farmland in central Illinois. The car took me there. There was a building. The building had a door. The door opened before I knocked. There were 2 of them inside, tall and gray-blue, wearing plain dark clothing that covered them completely. They looked at me with the expression of people who have been waiting for something they weren't sure was coming. The one who spoke said, "You found the car." I said I bought it at an auction. It said we were hoping the right person would. I said, "How do you define right?" It said someone who tested it systematically before coming here. Then it said Margaret spoke of you. She said a neighbor's son bought things at auctions and fixed them, and could be trusted to be curious without being reckless. I said, "How long did she work with you?" It said since 1987. They needed someone local. They had a small operation, research, observation, nothing dramatic, requiring occasional ground-level assistance. Margaret had done it for 37 years, driving her Toyota to places ordinary people didn't go. I asked why the Toyota. It said she requested it. She said if she had to drive across reality, she preferred a car she could fix herself. I said I can work on Toyotas. It said we know. She mentioned that. I said, what does the job pay? It looked at its companion. Then it said Margaret never asked that. I said Margaret probably had a paid-off house. It made a sound I took for amusement. Then it named a number. I said I'll need that in writing. It said Margaret said you would say something like that too. I drove home the regular way. I had things to think about. I thought about Margaret for a long time. 81 years old. 37 years of quiet work. A Toyota she kept running because she needed it too. A secret she carried her whole life without telling anyone because it wasn't hers to tell. She had picked me without meeting me, based on what a neighbor said about a kid who fixed things and asked good questions. I pulled into my driveway. The Toyota sat there looking exactly like what it was, a $400 junker with one extra button. I went inside and got my good toolkit. Some things are worth taking care of properly. If this one got you, subscribe. We post a new story every single day, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Drop your story idea in the comments. A job, a situation, a what if, just a sentence or two. We read every single one, and your idea might be the next video.